Dave Hyde.
And I'm joined by two marvellous guests this morning. I am joined by the Drystones, Alex and Ford. How are you guys?
Hello. Yeah, pleased to be here.
See, I like it. You join me on a Thursday morning. It's great stuff. So what have you guys been up to recently?
Well, we've just finished our tour, which was super fun. We were touring all around the UK for basically the whole of last month, which was great. It was very intensive. We did some really good shows. We got some people along dancing. And yeah, it's been super fun.
Because you've been like Bristol, London, Sheffield, Bournemouth. You was everywhere, literally up and down the country.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did Manchester as well. We even slipped into Milton Keynes for a little gig at the end.
Did you get lost in the roundabout to Milton Keynes? There tend to be far too many.
No, we didn't actually. We didn't. We were very lucky. Our drummer grew up near there, so he knows the way around.
So I believe it's been used to for the last 10 years, touring, being the band. How did the band come together?
Yeah, well, we met at secondary school, and Alex used to play all sorts of stuff. They played drums, guitar, and it's like a little indie rocker. But yeah, and also played violin. And basically, the village that I grew up in, Priddy, there's a folk festival there, and there was like a last minute slot on one of the smaller stages. And my dad, who's involved in running it, said, "Do you want to do something? You do a bit of music." So we just got together to do that. And basically that was the first time we tried doing folky stuff, because we were doing all sorts of different stuff before that.
So when you come from doing folk and other stuff, when you say other stuff, like, is it indie sort of band stuff?
Yeah, and I used to play saxophone. That was the first instrument I learned. So we were doing like Green Onions covers and blues things like that as well.
So how did you come around to doing folk? Was it just a case of being put together and let's try something, see what happens? Or
I think it's definitely something we'd both been into for a little while, and then really quickly got into as soon as we started gigging and doing the kind of folk festival circuit when we were very young. I'd always had a bit of a kind of love for it. I'm from a family that's very attached to Scotland and part Scottish, and we'd always go up and go to Cayleys and stuff on holidays when I was a kid. And I really sort of had that in my bones from a young age, and it had always been something that I'd enjoyed playing on the fiddle.
Because you're both masters of quite a few different instruments, I'm led to believe.
Yeah, got a couple going.
Ford's the multi-instrumentalist, not me, really. I play a little bit of guitar and produce, but yeah, Ford.
Alex
there's all sorts of obscure things.
There's a whistle in there somewhere.
Guitar as well.
Isn't there a whistle in there somewhere as well?
Yes, I have one here.
See, just show off. Go on, give us a bit of the whistle. Go on.
Okay, I'm not sure how it's going to go with the background music you've got going, but it might be amazing. Who knows?
See you later. See, it does show. So how many instruments are there in the band we're just used to?
Pretty much three main ones, isn't it? Yeah.
Three, yeah.
Fiddle, guitar and whistle.
On the last tour we did, we had a bit of a bonkers setup where we were bringing like a whole table of percussion with us. But yeah, now it's down to three, and then we've been touring with an amazing drummer called Evan Carson.
And what does Evan bring to it? With the percussion, is he now the backbone with the drums, or?
Evan's kind of, doing acoustic drums and electric sample drums and bowron, which is like traditional Irish frame drum. And that all sort of comes together into one big, massive sound. Actually, we forgot about your bass synth board.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've got a little kind of keyboard that I can play with my feet at the same time as doing guitar with my hands, so that we get some extra bass sounds, which is really fun.
Just showing off, that is. That is just showing off.
You got to use all of the available limbs, you know.
I don't know. Try and get things moving with your feet at the same time. No wonder you don't play drums and percussion. You got no other limbs to play with. So when you start making stuff, because you've got your fifth studio track single album coming out soon.
Yeah, in fact, it's already out, and the lead single from that is the Singularity,
which is what we're here to talk about today. I've got to be honest, listened to it, played it, love it. It's a bit different. It's not just folk, is it?
No, definitely not.
We're kind of calling ourselves electro folk. So, folk, tronica, turbo folk, whatever you want to call it, it's totally fine. But it's kind of electronic production methods meet folk music. in this space where I think we've tried to give as much room for the folk sound and the folk instruments to breathe within that, but there's this huge sort of cinematic backdrop of electronica.
And do you find that the way in which you make music's evolved as well?
Yeah, well, when we made this album, I mean, we were pretty much making it during the pandemic. So, don't know if you know, but Alex lives in Bristol. I live in Sheffield. So, you know, I mean, not that we could have met up anyway, but, you know, having it during the pandemic. So, we were basically like sending each other recordings a lot and kind of putting things together in that remote way and maybe focusing a bit more on production things and sort of being a bit more kind of sky's the limit as well. Because when you record things, work on things on a computer, you can try out lots of different stuff in a way that you can't when there's just sort of two instrumentalists in the room. So we sort of tried to kind of go for it as much as we could and then work out afterwards how are we going to play it when we get together. And it's a fun challenge for us.
Lots of large emails, lots of large stems going backwards and forwards. I love it. Love the idea as well. So did you actually have an idea when you did it? So when you did this, that actually this is how we're going to perform this on stage? Or was it a case of actually this is what we want to sound, let's figure it out afterwards?
Definitely the second one. Yeah. And it was it was an idea that came fairly later to bring in drummer Evan for the live stuff. Because we'd experimented with other ways of doing it using kind of triggered samples that we were bringing and things like that. But then we found that just doing it with the drummer, with Evan, he can play some of that stuff, but he gives it his own feel. He brings like a live drummer's feel to everything. And it just like upped the energy levels of the gigs for us. And yeah, and we like that. We like to kind of give people a bit of a barnstorming kind of effect.
So when you're out touring and you sort of get, you know, you're in front of the crowds, what is it you think, what is going through your head? Because obviously you've got a catalogue of songs to go after. The new stuff's a little bit different. Are you mixing it up a little bit or?
Yeah, so we kind of planned the tour around a set list that we were going to tour, and it was mostly stuff off the new album. So each night we played probably about 80% of the whole new album, Vulpus. And then we were kind of looking at some of the older tracks as like, let's remix them and rework them into something that's going to have the same vibe and the same energy. With the exception of like one or two that stayed really, really folky. But such, you know, the effect we wanted was to keep the sort of consistent build throughout the hour or so that we're on stage, in a similar way to how, like, you know, an EDM gig would be or a club night would be, as opposed to a folk gig, which is often very stop-start and lots of chat and lots of, like, you know, long stories and things like that. Yeah, we wanted it to really build and really kind of create an atmosphere that was sort of reliable and danceable for everyone.
And have that vibe to take people on that journey with you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
See, I like this sort of stuff. It's different. It's not not necessarily what you're used to hearing, which does drive. And I say the single was absolutely brilliant. The Singularity, I've loved it. Listened to it. We've played it. We're gonna play it again at the end of the interview. Don't worry, it's totally fine.
Awesome.
But
Cool.
do you find sort of writing music being separate in two different locations easier, or is it better when you've been together? Is it easier that way, or is it just a different way you've looked at things due to what's gone on in the world the last couple of years?
I think it's just different. It takes to getting used to. I mean, we definitely have periods where, because obviously we met in secondary school, so we used to like meet up every week basically and just like practice all the time. Now we don't practice quite so much, but we might get together for like a whole week and do that intense period of playing together. And that can be really inspiring because you can just kind of trickle along, getting your ideas together. And then when we do get to meet, we really work things out and bounce off each other and have that like freshness of working together. So it's really nice.
So who moved away from who then? If you were together at secondary school, who went to Sheffield or who went to Bristol? Or?
I went to Sheffield.
I guess, yeah, Ford moved further.
Ford, you traitor.
we definitely both moved though.
So where was it? You were both together in Somerset, you said, yeah?
That's right. Yeah.
And then obviously, do you record the stuff yourself at home, or is it into a studio afterwards after you've laid some stuff down? Or
previous album we recorded, it was the first one that we recorded entirely ourselves. And we did that actually at my parents' house in Somerset, just with a very basic bedroom studio setup. And then we did the same kind of thing, but in Sheffield, probably in the room that you're in right now, Ford.
Actually, yes.
And that's where we tracked all the guitar and all the whistle and all the percussion for the album, and then came back to this room that I'm in now in Bristol and did all the fiddle and the strings.
So is it? Have you both had training or recorded? Or is it just a let's go for it and let's see what it sounded like? Or
I studied some elements of music production when I was at uni, doing a music course, and then it became a kind of a passion the years afterwards, and I just sort of really wanted to be able to produce and mix my own records, and that's kind of how we work now. You know, me and Ford both have a very kind of even balance when it comes to production decisions, and then it all just sort of gets mixed as we go, basically.
So here comes the techie question, and just because I'm a bit of a techie, what's your favourite plugin?
My favourite... I mean, I know it's super basic, but Valhalla Reverb, the super massive one, it's just like so useful. I use it on pretty much everything that needs big reverbs. And it's got a lot of variation in it. You know, you can do a lot with it.
You've never been asked that question before, have you?
No.
Bit of unique, I like it.
Tell you what we'll do is we'll see if we can find out Valhalla for later and stick it on somewhere.
Yeah. Just put it on our voices for the whole interview. Yeah. We'll sound like we're in a cathedral.
What are you looking forward to over this next 12 months? You've got to be having more plans. You've obviously just come off tour, probably having a bit of a downtime, writing again for more stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're both in other projects as well. I'm on tour with my other band, Misha, right now. Alex, I think, are you mixing your band Taran's album?
Almost finished mixing, the debut album for a brand new folk trio called Taran, which is going to be out later in the year. So that's really exciting. Mm-hmm. I've just been working with a Bristol-based duo called Jow this week, making their EP. That's JOW. They're amazing. It's a duo of trumpet and cello. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hitting the festivals again with some of the other bands. Like I play in a band called Sheelna Gig, which is super fun. It's like gypsy jazz meets Balkan folk music.
But you've been at Glastonbury as well, haven't you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What's it like playing a festival like that?
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, Glastonbury's really inspiring place. Bit mad, but yeah, just like all that music makes something fizzy go weird in the air, and it's just like a great place to be.
Do you find that you take that experience into the other projects you're doing as well? Yeah,
I'd say so. Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's been a big part of our formation as a band. And like coming from Somerset, Glastonbury is just like a big thing on the map. And playing there and having all those experiences quite early on, like we were playing when we were teenagers, so it has just, it was a big part of our musical upbringing. But yeah, and we're hitting a few festivals as the Drystones this year too. But yeah, I haven't been back to Glastonbury in a long time though. I really miss it.
You'll get back there, I promise. Mind you say that, There's been a couple of gaps here and there over the last couple of years, hasn't there?
So I think to be fair.
Cancelled, cancelled. And when you sort of go through, you ever thought about bringing all the bands together, all the projects that you do together to do sort of one big night entertainment and just go on stage and, or would it be too crazy? Because you're both in all of them, I suppose.
That would be a great idea. I'd love it.
Bit of ska going on as well as folk.
There'd be so many people,
especially with the cello.
Yeah, no, it'd be super fun. We did a couple of years ago at our home festival in Priddy do a show which was like Drystones and Friends, where we just kind of went around the folk festival asking other people to collaborate with us just on the day with very little rehearsal, and that was super fun. I'd love to do something like that again.
And did you do any of these online shows during lockdown and stuff like that, or was it a case of head down and just keep recording new stuff?
We mostly focused on making the album. I know I did a couple with one of my other projects, which is like a vibraphone and fiddle duo, Harriet Riley and Alex Garden. But yeah, what about you, Ford? Did you do some with Mishra?
Yeah, we did a lot with Mishra. Mishra is me and my partner, Kate Griffin, who lived together. So it worked really well. Like we were able to just stream whenever we wanted over lockdown, as well as some other musicians, sort of Indian folk fusion musicians. But yeah, in terms of the Drystones stuff, we pretty much kept our heads down, sort of made plans, squirreled ourselves away, and then kind of got ready for the big thing, which was the tour and the album release. So yeah, I think it was quite a nice way to do it, because I know that putting an album out during the lockdown period would have been great, but we would have really missed being able to do the tour and to kind of do that properly. So I'm glad that we waited and then sort of came back kicking, if that makes sense.
I want to know more about this as well. When you sort of, obviously you're separate at the moment, you're right, you get everything together, then you hit tour. Is there a couple of days beforehand you get together and you think, do you know what, we're just going to be friends again, face to face, chill, relax, few drinks, anything come out of that and then leading into the tour? Or is it just a case of straight into the tour?
Well, this time around, we were actually quite limited with time. So we only had one day of rehearsing before. But it's great because we did a week's R&D with Evan, which is the first time we played as a trio back in January. By the end of that week, I was just like so happy with how it was all going and how it was sounding. And then by the time we got into that rehearsal room the day before the first night of the tour, it was just like straight back in. This is really fun. This is going to be a really good tour. If a little nerve-wracking, it's going to be really fun.
Is it like you've never been apart? It's like it's just constant all the time when you get back together as well?
Yeah, when you play music with someone for 10 years, you do just kind of like, it doesn't matter if you don't see each other for 6 months. You just play together again and it's great, you know. We maybe have a little rehearsal, just a refresher.
Yeah. It's just forgetting how things goes.
And who's got the worst habits?
The worst habits? What do you mean the worst habits?
Someone's got to have something. So snoring if you're on tour, depending on where you're stopping, bad taste in music.
I refuse to tune my violin more than once a month, so that might be up there.
So if you go to a gig and it's slightly off tune, you can sort of see whereabouts it is, depending on whereabouts in the month it is.
yeah, totally.
I'd say I felt bad. One of the gigs, we had to drive back from Totnes to Somerset, and it was like sort of good 2 hours, and we left at midnight. And I was driving and the other guys were just pretty much asleep. But I was just blaring out Radio 1, like really loud dance mix. And I just did not turn it down, even though they were very obviously asleep. So I'd say I don't know if that's a bad habit, but
it's bad music choice, we'll give you that. It does sound like you've got a very eclectic sort of music sort of around you all, like with the different styles and the different people around you. Is there a sort of music or style of music you'll always go back to?
I suppose like the folk stuff is the roots of where I think where probably we both kind of got into music and found our way and got really excited about music was through the instrumental folk stuff and that style and like learning that music, because it's really notey, like fast music. So you have to kind of like put your head down a little bit and learn the techniques. And doing that was like the foundation of what got me into music, I think. But yeah, just keeping it eclectic is really fun. And sometimes you need a bit of like heavy electronic dance music to get you down the motorway.
And do you fancy playing a little game? Because one of the first questions in my game sort of links into sort of musical likes.
Sounds
Nice.
good.
Yeah. So we'll do the first one can go out to both of you. Or in fact, you know what? Let's go to Alex first. Alex, what is your most favourite song of all time? If you can go to anyone, play one for the rest of your life, what would it be? Apart from Singularity.
Oh, that is a very, very hard question to answer.
Well, Ford's got heads up because that's the same question going to in a minute. So,
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I'm going to have to say Dean Town by Wolfpack, just because it's such a banger and it's actually a surprisingly good karaoke song, even though there's no lyrics.
see, I don't know how that works. I've got to be honest. You've blown my mind with that one. What about you, Ford?
Oh man, that's a really hard question. There's so much good music. It's like, how can you pick one? I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to go with just like a really obviously good song, like something by Nile Rodgers, because like anything that he did was just pure funky gold.
You just didn't want to say Barbie Girl by Aqua. That's what it was.
Just
Being
anything
cool,
but
Nile
Barbie Girl.
Rodgers. We'll give you that one. So I'll do these next few if you do as quick as you can, but I'll shout your name out and then you can answer it. How's that sound?
Okay.
All right.
So Ford, if you was on Mars, how would you solve problems?
I would draw in the red dust with my finger.
Alex, would you rather eat mashed potatoes or baked potatoes?
Definitely mashed potatoes.
Ford, sorry. Would you like a gas stove or an electric stove?
Gas stove.
Alex, the golden arches or thinking looking good chicken?
I don't know what that is, so that one. I don't like chicken.
He has a big clown outside. Ford, would you rather go on a beach with a bikini or a one piece?
Probably a one piece.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I look better in a bikini. Alex, matching socks or mismatched socks?
Matching socks.
Ford, Nintendo or Sega?
Nintendo.
Alex, Nintendo or Sega? I've got to ask you as well.
Nintendo.
Ford, would you rather use staples or paper clips?
Paper clips.
And Alex, if an animal could talk, which animal would be the rudest?
Probably a badger.
Ford, how would it sound?
Quite deep, growly voice, like a posh, angry man.
No, don't know what you mean. You'd have to show us. You'd have to tell us.
What are you doing in my badger hole?
And Alex, is cereal soup?
Yes.
Ooh.
I do not know about that.
Actually, it's probably more of a salad, isn't it?
Well, it's got liquid. It's got floaty bits. Minestrone soup has liquid and floaty bits, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, this is the question that will divide the nation. And to the both of you, if you could be in Harry Potter or Game of Thrones, which one would you rather be in?
Game of Thrones.
I think Game of Thrones would be more fun, although more dangerous. But yeah, I like to live dangerously.
Do you think you'd last more than 10 minutes?
No. But I'd go out in a blaze of glory, and it'd be great.
Well, anything over 2.5 minutes makes you a main character in Game of Thrones. Remember that. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining me this morning. We're going to go out and play your new single, The Singularity, from the new album, which everyone can go out and get now. Where else can we find you at the moment as well on social media?
We've got Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. We're on all the usual places as the Drystones. And obviously, our album's available to stream on all of the major streaming platforms. So go and check it out and like and subscribe.
Pick it up on Bandcamp too. Bandcamp's a great place to pick it up.
Can we get it through your website?
Yeah.
That's the drystones.com.
That's the one.
And we'll be waiting for more tour dates later on this year. So thank you very much for joining me. This is the Drystones and the Singularity here at 99.2 FM.